Have you ever wondered if there's a force that governs the entire universe, but can't be fully explained or named? Something that exists beyond our words and thoughts, yet influences everything around us. This is the mystery of the Tao, a concept that invites us to see beyond what we can describe. The Tao, in its simplest form, is the ultimate force behind everything. It's often described as something that cannot be fully captured by words or named directly. In the Taoist view, the universe was born from this nameless source, and everything we see and touch today, from mountains to rivers, comes from it. For example, think of the way nature flows effortlessly, the changing seasons, the growth of plants, and even the endless movement of water. The Tao is what guides these processes without forcing them. But if the Tao can't be named, how do we experience it? If it's beyond words, how do we even begin to understand it? This is where Taoism encourages us to observe and feel rather than explain. Just like how the sky changes its colors without needing a reason, or how a river finds its way to the ocean without knowing its path, the Tao works in quiet, natural ways. It exists in the quietness of the wind, in the stillness of the night, and in the flow of life itself. If we compare this idea with how we normally understand the world, it's quite different. Usually, we rely on facts, names, and definitions to make sense of things. We give everything a label, calling a tree or the sky blue. But the Tao suggests that the more we name things, the further we move away from truly experiencing them. By stepping back from labeling and describing, we might open ourselves to a deeper, richer understanding of life. But if the Tao cannot be named, why even talk about it? Isn't it contradictory to use words to describe something that is beyond words? Interestingly, Taoism embraces this contradiction. The teachings of Taoism use words and stories as tools to help us reach a point where we can let go of words altogether. It's like using a boat to cross a river. Once you reach the other side, you no longer need the boat. In the same way, we use language to guide us to the Tao, but at some point, we must rely on intuition and direct experience to truly connect with it. In summary, the Tao represents the unnameable force behind everything, inviting us to move beyond labels and experience life more fully. By learning to observe without judgment, we can begin to feel the presence of the Tao in the world around us. Next, we'll explore how opposites, like beauty and ugliness, work together in harmony to create balance in the universe.
Have you ever noticed how we only understand what's beautiful because we know what's ugly? Or how we appreciate kindness because we've experienced cruelty? These opposites seem to shape everything in life, helping us make sense of the world. But what if, instead of opposing forces, they are actually two parts of the same whole? According to Taoism, opposites like beauty and ugliness, or good and bad, are not separate, they exist because of each other. This idea of duality shows up in everything we experience. For example, we understand what it means for something to be easy only because we have faced difficult situations. Similarly, we recognize light only because we have seen darkness. Taoism teaches us that these opposites are not meant to fight each other, but rather work together to create balance in the universe. It's like two sides of a coin, one cannot exist without the other. But why are opposites so important? Why does life depend on both sides of the spectrum? Without ugliness, would beauty still matter? Without difficulty, would we value ease? This duality is what helps us appreciate the richness of life. Imagine a world where everything was easy all the time. Would we even notice or appreciate ease if we didn't know what struggle felt like? Taoism suggests that opposites are essential because they highlight and give meaning to each other. When we compare this Taoist view of duality with how we usually see the world, there's a shift in perspective. Often, we are taught to choose between good and bad, or to strive for the pleasant while avoiding the unpleasant. But Taoism invites us to accept both sides equally. Instead of seeing them as enemies, it suggests we embrace both beauty and ugliness, ease and difficulty, as natural parts of life. In fact, each gives the other its value, making life fuller and more meaningful. But doesn't this way of thinking make it harder to pursue what's good? If good and bad are seen as equally necessary, does that mean we shouldn't try to make things better? Not at all. Taoism doesn't argue against making life better or seeking happiness. It simply reminds us that trying to avoid the difficult parts of life is impossible. Challenges, pain, and difficulties are just as much a part of existence as joy and success. By accepting both, we can find peace in any situation rather than constantly fighting against the natural flow of life. In conclusion, opposites like beauty and ugliness, ease and difficulty, are not enemies but partners that help us understand and appreciate life more fully. By embracing both sides, we create balance and harmony. Next, we'll explore how governing through simplicity and reducing desires can lead to a peaceful and harmonious society.
Have you ever noticed that the more we complicate things, the more problems seem to arise? What if the key to leading a peaceful society isn't more rules, wealth, or power, but rather simplicity? Taoism suggests that the best way to govern is by reducing desires and keeping things simple. Taoism teaches that a wise ruler doesn't promote competition or materialism among the people. Instead, they focus on satisfying basic needs and encouraging simplicity. For instance, if people aren't constantly shown things they don't have, like luxury goods or unattainable goals, they won't be driven to steal or fight. The Taoist sage would keep the people's hearts calm and desires low, filling their stomachs instead of their minds with unnecessary ambitions. By focusing on what is truly essential, food, health, and a peaceful mind, society can remain harmonious and free from chaos. But how does simplicity create peace? Wouldn't a lack of competition or ambition make people lazy or uninspired? Actually, it's quite the opposite. When people aren't constantly chasing after things they don't need, they become more content with what they have. Instead of striving for wealth or recognition, they focus on living well and taking care of their community. This doesn't mean people stop working or creating, but that they do so without unnecessary pressure or greed. In this way, simplicity leads to a more balanced and peaceful society. If we compare this Taoist idea of governance to how many societies function today, there's a clear difference. Modern governments often emphasize economic growth, technological advancement, and competition. People are encouraged to want more wealth, more status, more possessions. While this can drive innovation, it also creates stress, inequality, and sometimes even crime. Taoism, on the other hand, suggests that by lowering desires and simplifying life, people can achieve a kind of peace that wealth and status alone can't provide. But isn't ambition necessary for progress? If we encourage people to live simply and avoid competition, how can society move forward? This is a common concern, but Taoism argues that progress doesn't have to come from endless striving. When people are content and at peace, they are more likely to make decisions that benefit everyone, not just themselves. Creativity and innovation can still happen, but they come from a place of balance rather than greed or pressure. In fact, without the distractions of unnecessary desires, people might be even more focused and productive. In conclusion, Taoism suggests that governing through simplicity, by reducing desires and focusing on basic needs, leads to a more harmonious society. People become more content, peaceful, and cooperative. Next, we'll explore the infinite nature of the Tao itself, which is said to be both boundless and ever-present, guiding all things in subtle ways. What if there was a force in the universe that could never be used up, no matter how much you relied on it? Imagine a source of energy that is limitless, always available, and quietly guiding everything around us. This is the essence of the Tao, an infinite force that shapes all of existence. The Tao is often described as empty, yet its use is endless. It's like a well that never runs dry, no matter how many people draw water from it. Though it has no form, it seems to be the source of everything in the universe, from the smallest grain of sand to the largest mountain. The Tao doesn't push or force things to happen, yet it influences everything in subtle ways. A simple example is the way rivers flow effortlessly, carving out valleys over time without rushing or trying. This quiet power of the Tao shapes everything without needing to take credit for it. But how can something that is empty be so powerful? If the Tao has no form or substance, how does it affect the world around us? The answer lies in the idea that the Tao doesn't force itself upon anything, yet its influence is everywhere. Just as the air around us is invisible but essential for life, The Tao is a quiet presence that supports and guides all things. Its power comes from being flexible, adaptable, and limitless. The Tao can take any shape, influence any situation, and be present in every moment without being noticed. When we compare the Tao's infinite nature to other forces we know, like electricity, wind, or water, it becomes clear that even these powerful energies have limits. Electricity can run out, wind can die down, and water can dry up, but the Tao continues endlessly. It's not a physical force that can be measured or contained, which is what makes it so unique. The Tao doesn't exhaust itself because it's not trying to achieve a specific outcome. It simply flows naturally, always present and always available. But if the Tao is so invisible and subtle, how can we be sure it even exists? Isn't it possible that the Tao is just a metaphor or an idea? While the Tao might seem abstract, Taoism teaches that its presence can be felt in the natural world. We can't see the wind, but we feel it when it touches our skin. We can't see gravity, but we know it's there when we drop something. Similarly, the Tao is felt in the effortless way that life unfolds, in the balance of nature, and in the flow of time. Though we may not see the Tao directly, its effects are all around us. In conclusion, the Tao is a boundless force that quietly influences everything in the universe, from the flow of rivers to the unfolding of life itself. Though invisible, it is a constant presence, always available and never exhausted. Next, we'll explore how nature's impartial attitude reflects the Tao's indifferent yet nurturing character, and what that teaches us about life's natural flow. Have you ever noticed how nature seems to treat everything the same, without showing preference or favoritism? Whether it's a sunny day or a storm, nature simply unfolds, allowing things to happen as they will. This impartial attitude reflects the Tao's approach to life. It doesn't favor or oppose anything, yet everything unfolds according to its principles. In Taoism, it is said that heaven and earth are not kind in a human sense. They treat all things as straw dogs, a symbol of something used for a purpose and then discarded. This doesn't mean nature is cruel, but rather that it operates without bias. For example, a tree doesn't choose who can rest in its shade, and the rain falls on everyone, whether they want it or not. This impartiality allows nature to maintain balance without trying to control or manipulate outcomes. It simply supports life as it is, letting things come and go naturally. But why does nature behave this way? Why doesn't it show preference to the good and avoid the bad? The Taoist view is that nature's indifference is what makes it fair. It doesn't judge events or label them as positive or negative. It simply lets things happen according to their nature. When a forest fire occurs, it might seem destructive, but it also clears the way for new growth. When winter arrives, it may seem harsh, but it also prepares the earth for the renewal of spring. By not favoring one outcome over another, nature creates room for all possibilities, allowing life to adapt and evolve. This idea contrasts with how humans often approach life. People tend to label things as good or bad, desirable or undesirable, based on personal experiences and preferences. We try to control situations to achieve favorable outcomes, often becoming upset when things don't go our way. Nature, however, doesn't resist change or try to impose its will. It accepts whatever comes, knowing that everything is part of a larger cycle. If we could learn to be more like nature, we might find it easier to handle life's ups and downs without so much stress or struggle. But if nature is indifferent, does that mean we shouldn't care about what happens to us or to others? Isn't it important to show concern and try to make things better? Taoism doesn't suggest that we should be cold or uncaring. Instead, it encourages us to accept that not everything is within our control. We can still be compassionate and try to improve the world, but we should do so with the understanding that some things will happen no matter how much we care. By accepting the natural flow, we can approach life's challenges with a calm mind and an open heart. In conclusion, nature's impartiality reflects the Tao's approach of letting things be without interference. This doesn't mean being uncaring, but rather accepting that life unfolds in its own way. Next, we'll explore how the concept of an everlasting spirit helps us understand the Tao's enduring and constant nature, supporting all things without effort.